Hey, it's Aly Prudhomme. I just missed your call.
How you doing, buddy? It's Mike and Jay from the Detroit Cast.
Hey, Aly.
Good.
Yeah. Thanks for taking some time to talk to us today. It's the 14th anniversary this week of the Station Club fire in Rhode Island, and boy, you are central casting for the Boston, Massachusetts area. I can hear it in your voice. But you were actually there. Most people would know it as the Great White Fire, where 100 people died, hundreds more injured, and you were actually at the club that night.
Well, I'll start from the beginning with this one as quick as I can. I was in a band called Fathead. So what we did was we were an original band. I don't like to use descriptions of what we sound like because I don't hear it that way, but people would say, you guys are like a cross between, like a mixture of Skinhead and Guns N' Roses.
Nice.
We had an edge, but we had we had a southern edge. Being East Coast, I don't know where it came from, but that's what it was. So the station had a battle of the bands from Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. And let's just put a thing together. They didn't tell us what the grand prize was going to be until towards the end. So we're doing the battle of the bands thing. It's going on for months and months. And now it's down to 5 bands, Fathead and 4 others, Sky High, a few other bands. And we won. So the winning was we got to open up for, we were doing that anyways. We were opening up for all the national acts there. We opened up for Doc and Twice, Quiet Riot. I mean, all the 80s guys.
Nice.
Got to hang with them a little bit.
Cool.
I'm not even going to share those stories because those are too funny, but those are for the X-rated podcast.
No, this is a pretty X-rated podcast. You can tell us anything. If you had a wild night with Kevin DeBrow, I want to know about it.
Yeah. Well, no, actually, he was kind of unreachable. He was there signing stuff, but he was kind of quiet.
Yeah.
God rest his soul. Frankie Benally was great. Because we were drummers and stuff.
Great drummer.
I love that guy. Anyways, I'll go back to what I was saying. So they had the Battle of the Bands thing. We won. And we had done the Quiet Riot twice, Doc and twice. I think Warren, Cinderella, Wasp, a bunch of people came through. And when we won the Battle of the Bands, they gave us this little trophy, which was a music eighth note. And they said, you guys get this. And, down here we have the Dunkin' Donuts Center. He goes, and in August, so keep in mind the fire was February.
Yep.
So this was January that we won. He said, in August, you guys get to open up for Def Leppard at the Dunkin' Donuts Center, and that's probably going to lead to a tour.
Wow.
Now, keep in mind, I'm a local nobody, so I don't want to paint this picture of being, I'm under the radar, so to speak. If it wasn't Rhode Island, there wouldn't be a person that knows me, so I don't want to paint this picture.
No. How big is the Dunkin' Donuts Center? I mean, is that like, for us here in Detroit, is that like a 20,000 seat venue, 15?
That's exactly what I believe it's 20.
Okay.
20,000.
Okay.
So we had one more open, a Great White. Now, in all fairness, even though I listen to everything now, my musical styles have changed from smooth jazz to, Van Halen with David Lee Roth's probably my favorite. But I mean, I wasn't huge, and I'm not knocking them at all. God bless them, but I wasn't huge into Great White.
Great White.
I didn't. Yeah, I just didn't like the bluesy-ish. No, I'm really not.
Dude, I know where you're going. I feel the same way. There were a couple songs where it was cool, but they weren't my bag either. I got you. Yeah,
because I know it's coming from me being a Zeppelin fan. If I say this, it's kind of foot and mouth, but I really wasn't into that blues-influenced 80s metal.
Mm-hmm.
If it was going to be 80s metal, I wanted Rat. I wanted Motley Crue. I wanted Heavy Queensryche. I wanted,
Yeah.
So I said, I'll do it. So we opened up, and there's a picture of me in Rolling Stone magazine because this is a long story. But like I said, I'm trying to cut to the chase. We opened up for Great White. After we were done, I tore my drums down. I stacked them up. I watched the entire. Now I'm saying this innocently because I didn't know this at the time, but I'm watching them set up the pyrotechnics, thinking this is going to be great. Great White comes up. They didn't even get. I think it was this. I don't want to say Desert Storm. It was something.
Yeah,
desert.
it was Desert Storm opening number.
Was it?
Yep.
Okay, so they didn't even get into. I don't even think Jack Russell got to sing, and I don't drink when I play because I don't want to get sloppy. So I probably was the only sober one there, and I'm leaning on this box that says explosives, which that's way ahead of the story. But long and short, the fire catches on the left side. You can watch this on YouTube. The video is actually still up there. Mm-hmm. And the fire started on the left side of the stage. And when pyrotechnics go off like a sparkler, it's like a whitish type of a color. Well, this was yellow and orange. And I don't know why, a God-given thing or whatever it was, I sensed danger. I don't know why. And I ran out the side stage door, and I ran over to the front knowing that's where my wife was. And, people are kind of walking out. I'm just kind of grabbing arms. Still none of this is processing that anything's bad. It was just a sense that I can't explain. And I just started pulling these arms out. My wife was like the fifth or sixth one. I pulled her up into the parking lot, and I said, don't move. Don't effing move.
Yeah.
And by the time I got back up to the door, the heat was so bad. So now I'm fast forwarding quite a bit. There was a DJ down here called Dr. Metal from 94 HJY. And he died, half my band died in the fire, and 10 friends.
Oh.
So basically, if you watch the video, you had exactly 88 seconds to get out or you were dead, because the last person to walk out was was 2 seconds short of a minute and a half.
Wow,
that's
incredible.
So unbelievable.
It didn't process. And I'm like, Steve and Keith Mancini were my bass player and my guitar player. And I'm like, where's Steve? Where's Keith? And just nobody. So just, I can talk about it comfortably now, but it's sometimes I look back at it, like I was looking at some pictures on Google, just because of the anniversary, and I'm looking at these bodies, stacked up in the doorway and stuff like that. And the funny thing is, you as a human, you shut down certain senses. It's a protective thing for your brain. And I genuinely can stand here and talk to you all day about the sights, but I actually, when I'm telling the story, it's more like I'm hearing it from other people, because I don't really remember. I remember seeing it, but I don't remember. I remember the sounds, the screams, and that kind of thing, but I don't really remember the sights. And, Kevin Beasy, the station manager at the time, is like, he goes, what are you talking about? You don't remember? He goes, a ball of fire came running out of the building. He goes, and we both grabbed him and threw him into the snowbank to put the fire out. I said, dude, I don't remember. So I shut that kind of stuff down, where my wife remembers all the sights, but she doesn't remember any smells. She doesn't remember any, sounds. So it's funny how your brain works. Everyone's different.
That is incredible. And hey, for listeners who don't remember the specifics of this, of course, the pyro lit some foam that had been applied to the walls and ceiling as like a sound deadening.
That's right.
Had you ever seen pyro at the station before?
I did, but when I had to go to the grand jury during some of this, and, I didn't remember it. You got to keep in mind, we're 80s guys, so some of the stuff you don't remember, and then some of the stuff you might actually confuse what you saw on MTV or what you actually did. No shitting. So I'm like, I said, I think I did. I don't remember. Yeah. I've seen Kiss tributes. What kind of Kiss tribute's not going to have something?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I'm like, when they're trying to, hang you for nothing, you start getting paranoid about stuff. So you can't say yay or nay, because you don't really, they'll hold you to it.
Well,
I'm like, I don't think I did.
Yeah. Did the foam on the stage and the walls have an appearance that gave you any concern? Was that even on your radar? Like, whoa, this is kind of weird the way this thing's laid out.
Well, without a doubt, when I was, doing the grand jury thing, the Providence Journal Sunday Times had come and did an interview. And keep in mind, I turned down interviews with MTV, the behind the music thing. I turned down. I don't want that attention. See, some people love it. They want to. Oh, even if it's bad, I want to be part of this. I don't want nothing to do with it. I don't go to the memorials. I don't want the attention. I don't want cameras on me. I don't need that. Like some people need those things.
Yeah.
So
it's a weird thing, Aly. Over the years, not many of you guys have talked much about that day. The Great White certainly doesn't speak on it for the most part.
No.
And I don't recall anyways. And I remember that story landed, it was at night, and the next morning I was on doing a radio show here in Detroit. And so those first images were coming out while all the morning shows across the country were live, and seeing those images of bodies stacked in the door. It's like 9/11 to me. It's something I'll never forget. And seeing the horror take place there, and knowing how much life was lost.
100 dead, 230 injured, only 132 escaped. So the odds were just greatly stacked against you.
Yeah, yep.
And the funny thing is, too, there's a book on Amazon called The Killer Show. It's a really big seller. Our names are throughout that book. I think it's from a lawyer's perspective, some of the legal stuff, but my wife and I were actually going to buy the club. So, questions arose, dude, that could have been you.
Yeah.
And it's easy to say, no, it wouldn't have. But it wouldn't have, because I'm not going to get into any legal stuff, but I wouldn't have had that stuff on there. But they had quoted me in the papers as saying, when you saw them push up the pyrotechnics up against the foam, did you think that was odd? Because they were thinking that this person, whether he did or didn't, I don't know. I can't speculate. That he had permission by the club to put the pyrotechnics in the building. We don't know. I don't know, honestly.
Yeah.
But everyone's got a little bit of common sense. I ended up saying in the papers, I'm like, well, if you gave me permission to light this candle and put it under a curtain, am I going to do it? So, the common sense factor had to play into, what are you thinking, dude?
Yeah,
this is foam, and you're putting something, and that's the other thing that people don't understand, what some people don't understand what pyrotechnic is. It's not, you hold a button and then when you're done, you let it go. It burns off when it's done.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So when they ignite that, you got to wait for this gunpowder or whatever it is to finish. It's not like you can shut anything off.
Yeah, and I guess there were 2 at 45-degree angles on the sides and then 1 straight up. And it was hit by the Great White, I guess, manager Dan Beichel.
Dan Beichel.
Yeah.
Beakley.
Beakley. Okay.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the sentence that he got? He was the only one who was sentenced to prison, I believe, in this.
The owners served the one owner served some time too.
Now this guy got sentenced to 4 years and he got out after 2. How do you feel about that?
I played with this over and over and over in my head, and I guess, again, I don't want to get in too detail with any of that kind of stuff. I don't want to point fingers and have people knocking on my door and all that kind of thing. But think of it this way. It's got to trickle down and hit bottom somewhere. So to me, the person that gave the okay that this is a safe building, it has to go back on that ultimately first.
Mm-hmm. So the fire marshal.
That's my opinion. I mean, in other words, if I walked in and it was unsafe, it's unsafe. Done deal.
Yeah.
So it's not one person. It's a multiple of people.
Yeah.
Somebody okayed that the building was safe.
Well,
a band came in and
that and the lack of sprinklers, and they pointed to, well, this was an older building that was there before this sprinkler law that went into effect, and therefore we were grandfathered. But apparently that wasn't the case. It actually changed from, I guess, a bar to a music venue, and that technicality took them out of that grandfathering. So there should have been a sprinkler system that would have cost like 30 or 40 grand and would have saved all these people's lives,
Yeah.
Hey, one other heinous fact of this thing that jumps out at me when I read about this or think back about this, the idea that there were bouncers at the rear exits, the stage exits, that were pushing people away, saying, nope, this is band only exit. Are you kidding me? I mean, there's enough idiocy in this whole thing to go around, like you said, from fire inspector down. But are you kidding me, man? Is that the truth, that there were bouncers there pushing people away?
Again, I'm going by the stories that told. Some people say yes, some people say no. But the only thing that anyone can do that it's really angry about that is you've got to put yourself in their situation. And I only say this speaking from my experience. When I ran out that door and got my wife out and then ran back up to the door and there's no way to explain the amount of heat. It's just, it was like standing in front of the sun. And you could feel like whatever hair you had on your face, it felt like it was melting. So even at that point, and walking away from the door and seeing what looked like stuntmen, fireballs running and people screaming, I have no fingers, and holding up their hands and it being skeletons, even all that, which is within minutes, short minutes, I still looked at my wife and said, what the frig? I got to get in. I had a $5,000 Tamistock Classic kit in there. I'm like, what the frig? I got to get my drums out of here. Wow. They're going to get ruined.
Yeah.
And my wife looked at me and said, do you have any idea what's going on? So in their defense, they were just doing their job. I mean, like I said, I'm talking about people that I didn't even know well. They're just doing protocol. Those go to the front. Those are the exit doors. So I can't blame them, because 2-3 minutes after the fact, I'm still saying I got to go there and get my drums.
Right.
You weren't the only one to have that feeling. First off, Aly, I don't think you said "what the frig" to your wife, just for the record. But but no, I think that's how the one guitarist, Ty Longley for Great White died. Is he tried to go back in and get one of his guitars.
I was just gonna say that's what the story is around here. Again, there's no fact, but I remember seeing the drummer run out and he had like a cymbal bag.
Wow.
And he's like, what the hell's going on? And I never saw Ty, but I guess Ty Longley had run out and said, I've got thousands of dollars worth of guitars in there. Again, this is story and speculation. I didn't see it.
Yeah.
But the story around here is he was out and then he ran back in and they found him where his guitars were.
Oh.
That gives you a good picture and a good idea of anyone can stand there and say, well, they shouldn't have done this and they shouldn't have done that. What a bunch of assholes.
Yeah.
We're talking 88 seconds was the last person out, and in 3 minutes, you still haven't processed what's going on.
Yeah.
You're talking about a stone sober person, as myself was. I can't imagine if he had a little bit of a buzz.
They say that this circumstance not only presented the fire, but also an unbelievable smoke and the thick smoke based on this polyurethane foam. So it's sort of just the worst possible situation for people trapped inside a building.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
It was.
Do you know, Aly, like you mentioned that 2 of your bandmates perished in this fire. Do you know what their story was? If they were part of the logjam trying to get out of there, or if they got stuck at an exit somewhere, or were you ever able to find out?
No, it still remains in memory. It's kind of one of those things where you want to know, but you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know the DJ from 94 HJY that unfortunately died. And it was funny, too. Yeah, Dr. Metal. And I really had to go to the bathroom, because I drink a gallon of water a day. So I'm like, well, I got to wait. It's like Motley Crue coming out on stage and you're going to go to the bathroom and miss the grand, when they first come out, that's really important.
Not a chance I'm missing that.
Not a chance. So
no way.
And we're only talking about, a blues 80s band. And I'm like, I just want to see when they first come out and then I'll go to the bathroom. If I would have gone to the bathroom, I know I wouldn't have gotten out because, Dr. Metal got on the stage and said, ladies and gentlemen, Great White, got out, went into the bathroom, and that's where it was found. So, if I would have been to the bathroom, we wouldn't be having this conversation. It was just seconds. That's all you had.
Do you remember what it was like outside, Aly? Because now you're outside, you're safe, you're living the images that we're all seeing on TV. What was that scene like? Had it hit you? I guess I'm wondering when it hit you, like how big of a deal this was, and how many people were going to die that night.
Believe it or not, probably longer than I care to think. Because I remember standing out there, it was freezing, bitter cold, and someone had thrown me a shirt to put on, and there was a restaurant across the street, and even when the fire trucks got there, it still didn't sink in. People are in that building and they're dying. Even though I heard yelling and screaming and glass breaking and things like that, I don't know what it was. It just didn't click. I'm like, nah, this is going to be fine. And then once like 5 and then 6 and then 7 fire trucks came and they're taking everybody, and then now you see the people again. I'm kind of going by story there. I'm like, people are dying. I'm thinking of everybody, of course, but the first thing I thought of was half my band because my wife is already out.
That's got to be the most frantic search in that moment. Like, okay, here's my wife, here's my singer, where's my bassist and guitarist? Like, it had to be crazy. And what do? Run around the outside of the building just like screaming their names? Well,
that's what you. They took the video down. There was a video on YouTube from the helicopter view. Now, because we had that Skinny Guns N' Roses-ish thing that people say we had, we had outfits, and I was just dressed in regular clothes and stuff, kind of rustic, but it had like this almost like a Bret Michaels cowboy hat kind of a thing on.
Yeah.
And you can see the helicopter is flying over the parking lot and giving you a sky view of everything. And then you can see me in the video frantically pacing back and forth, in circles and things like that, which, again, I don't remember doing it. It's the video told me, but they took that video down. I don't know why. Mm-hmm. But I just remember it being really freezing cold. And once the fireman said, you saw firemen like freaking out. Like when you see a fireman making a really big deal out of something, it's going to be bad because they're pretty calm, cool, and collective.
How ironic is that? He's outside freezing his ass off, and 10 feet away, people are in literal hell.
Right.
It's unbelievable.
Literal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was kind of weird too, because the paint job on the building, one of the last pictures that you saw was like a picture of Ozzy, because it was a big picture of Ozzy on the outside of the building. And you see Ozzy with the round dot glasses and all the flames. It was kind of like, you know, all these weird things are going through your mind. It's like, oh my God, is it the devil? I mean, you can't help but think.
Yeah.
Even though I'm a big Ozzy fan, so it has nothing to do with that. But I think what really did it for me is my friend Rob had run out another side door, and there was a big, gigantic power line. And the power line, you saw like this gigantic spark, and then the power line came down and swung in front of him and almost hit him. I think at that actual moment is when I realized
the gravity
really, really is bad.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and I think I sat there in the restaurant across the street till, because I think it was 11:07 the fire happened, and I was there till like 6:30 in the morning. Jack Russell of Great White was sitting there, and they're taking all these statements down and all this kind of stuff too. And then all of a sudden, after all that stuff happened, at the initial beginning of all these statements, I now become, this is the person we've got to talk to. And again, unwanted attention. And in front of my house, there was like all these,
Camera crews,
news vans and people hiding in the woods trying to take pictures and things like that. And I remember we had a very vicious but lovable to us Doberman Pinscher at the time. And somebody had knocked on the door and said, "Hey, is Mr. Prudhomme here?" And my wife says, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, can I talk to him?" She said, "Absolutely not." And then he ended up saying, "Look, I flew all the way from San Diego, California to talk to him. I want to talk to him." My wife says, "If you don't leave the doorsteps right now, your Adam's apple will be removed from this Doberman."
Yeah, they're a slimy bunch, man. That media that descends onto a tragic scene is just they're unbelievable. The leech nature of them.
That's why I talk to no one, because first of all, I don't want the attention. Secondly, I know what your intentions are. Don't give me this pile of crap.
Sympathetic.
Yeah,
know
totally.
I want to hear fathead story and you'll almost cling to fame success. No, you don't. You want to say, who were the members of Fathead? What kind of music did you play? And okay, now let's get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
I'm not going to. I won't give you that time of day. I won't even look at you, because I know that your intentions. You don't care about me. You care about the story.
Now you weren't able to avoid, though, getting involved in, as you said, the grand jury testimony and stuff like that. How much were you pulled into, say, the civil suits and the criminal proceedings then afterward?
I think I was at the grand jury once, and this is at the very, very, very beginning. So now people they need to nail this on somebody. We got to get information now. That's how things are when they're brand new. And I remember sitting there, and then they had this gigantic, like a projector screen, and they weren't showing any pictures. And they said to me, after asking me questions, I don't remember any of them, but the main one I remember is, they said, "So you mean to tell me, Mr. Prudhomme, you had no involvement and no idea that this was going to happen?" I said, "No, I didn't." So somebody from the grand jury hit the projector screen, and they said, "Then why don't you explain this?" And then there was a picture of me, and that was the picture that Rolling Stone magazine used. There was a picture of me leaning on a box, a box that was up on a shelf, and I'm looking at the band, and the box said on it, "Explosives." So you have to think in there, this guy had to know something. So he said, "Can you explain this, Mr. Prudhomme?" And without even 1 second to process,
lawyers.
Yeah. So without 1 second to process it, I said, "Wait a minute." I said, "The only reason why anyone can even read what that box says is because whoever took a picture used a flash. Clubs are black, dark.
Yeah.
So you can't read. You can't see your shoelaces 2 feet in front of you. Never mind read what a box says."
Right.
So after they realized the reason why they wanted to drag me in on it is because I watched the entire stage setup, because I'm a musician, and you always like to look and see what national bands do different than you do. So I just watched them set this stuff up, and I'm like, okay, everything with the drums and the amps and the sound checks are all the same. And then here comes the pyrotechnics, and I watched it set up and saw this gigantic, fat, really heavy gauge blue cable running towards them. I'm like, wow, this is going to be great. This is going to be really cool. But I did say in my subconscious, how's that going to work?
Really?
Because when I was, because they said to me, "Well, how do you know that the pyrotechnics was set up right up against the foam?" I said, "Because that's where my back was. I wasn't allowed to use the drum riser opening for a national act because they're not going to move their stuff for a local nobody.
Yeah.
They're going to put their stuff up there. They're going to do sound check, and that's it. You set up in front of me.
Yep.
So my back was kind of up against a piece of foam. And when they were setting that stuff up, I'm like, that ain't going to work. But again,
yeah. You just figure someone knows what they're doing.
Yeah, you're observing this big national act.
Yeah, like I said, it's a common sense thing. To me, it was a common sense thing. It didn't make any sense, and I'm saying to myself, well, maybe it's one of those things where they're going to hold a button, they're going to let it go. But like if you watch the video, you don't see anybody igniting anything, but you watch the video and you just see the sparklers go off and the fire starts to happen, I believe, and the sparklers are still going off. You don't get to shut it off. So you're jumping out of a plane, you can't change your mind.
How has that night, Aly, affected your life after that? I mean, I'm assuming you probably had friends that were in the club that night that made it out as well, and I don't know how badly they were injured, if they were injured at all, and how life has been different since.
Well, you can only go two ways when something like that happens, and I hit a fork in the road, and the fork in the road says this: I'm going to live with a chip on my shoulder and turn into a drug addict, or I'm going to be humbled. And I humbled. Yeah,
Jack Russell went the other way, but that's impressive. I didn't know what your story would have been if you had. I had a decade of severe abuse after that, or No, not at all. The only thing that crossed my mind for the first time in my life was I remember saying to my wife, "I'm done. I'm not playing in a band ever again because no matter where I go, and I still do it, I'm going to see where every window is I can jump out and every exit door." Yeah. And that lasted about 6 weeks to 2 months, and then they held a benefit for me and the surviving member, and I think they raised $1,500 a piece, and they bought us some gear, and I'm like, I ain't stopping. I can't. Yeah.
But it's kind of uncomfortable when you play in small sardine-ish areas. We play a couple of clubs down here, which I love, and I purposely like the small rooms because they always look busy, but I always look, not necessarily an exit door because everyone's going to use that. I look for the windows.
Really? So no matter what, you've got a plan when you go into a room where people are just from now on, you've got a plan in mind of what I'm going to do in case something happens.
Yeah, I'll walk into a place, I'll set the drums up. After the drums are set up, then I just kind of scope out the place and say, okay, there's that window, there's this window, whatever I do, and then that's it, and I'm completely comfortable. Not that that's going to help, but when you're talking about a minute and under a minute and a half of what happened to those people in the station, then you realize every actual second does count. So if I can take the equation of thinking where I'm going to jump out of or which direction I'm going to go, then now I can sit comfortably.
Yeah, it's probably not bad advice for anybody going to a big event.
Well, Aly Prudhomme, thank you so much for the time today, man. I hope we didn't come off as leechy media guys.
You didn't at all. I'd have hung up. You didn't that way at all.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot, Aly. Yeah, we know we dredged up some tough memories, so we appreciate that.
No, that's okay. It's fine. I started following you guys online, and I subscribed to your channel on YouTube too, because Andy is, I don't know him well, but he's a really, really nice guy. We went on a Sammy Hagar cruise together, and he hooked me up with you guys. He advertises a lot for you. So
yeah, he's a good dude, man. And he started to tell me a little bit about your story, and I was like, shit, we got to talk to this guy, man. That's incredible. But like Jay said, I know it's not easy to talk about some of this stuff. What a terrible night, and this time of year has to be especially tough for you. But again, it's Aly Prudhomme, and thank you so much for the time, Aly.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, take care, bud.
See you later.
Thanks for listening, and be sure to visit DetroitCast.com for all new episodes of the Detroit Cast with Mike and Jay.